Are you looking for a way to make a real difference in mental health? Thank You Life is here to help. They are a nonprofit dedicated to making evidence based mental health therapies accessible to those who need it most. At Thank You Life, they provide financial assistance for ketamine assisted psychotherapy, helping individuals struggling with treatment resistant depression, anxiety, and PTSD. Their mission is to eliminate financial barriers to these life changing treatments and ensure everyone has the opportunity to heal. And the results speak for themselves. Their data shows that the average beneficiary experiences a 55% reduction in symptoms, which is on par with the broader ketamine research that we see. If you're in private practice or own a business and want to learn more about how you can help your local community, connect with them today, thankyoulife.org, or email them at partnerships@thankyoulife.org. Again, that's thankyoulife.org, or email them partnerships@thankyoulife.org. Thank You Life, healing through accessibility. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session 1047. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you 7 days a week now to build a thriving practice that you absolutely love. So often we think about thriving practices when we're first getting going as you're being selfish, or, you were told maybe through grad school, we're not going in it for the money. And somehow this idea of making money, of charging what you're worth, of raising your prices, people sometimes feel like it's unethical. It's not what you should do. You should, do it for the love of counseling. Now, I don't think you have to give up the love of counseling and the love of helping people in order to make money, in order to have a good living. And so that's why I'm really excited about what we're talking about today, which I'll talk in just a second about who we're interviewing. But we're about a month away from Level Up Week. Level Up Week kicks off September 16th. It goes until the 19th of 2024. We have, oh my gosh, you probably heard all of the podcasts we had from the spring Level Up Week, but we have panels of people that are starting practices, growing practices, building group practices. We've got trainings for you on all sorts of different areas. And we have some special guests that we are working with to bring in as well. So we're going to be doing 4 webinars a day for 4 days. So 16 webinars. We've got giveaways. It's our big push to help you level up no matter whatever phase of practice you're in. So you're going to want to register for at least one, if not more, of those over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. Again, that's September 16th. That kicks off for our live webinar series called Level Up Week. Now, I am so excited today to have Roxanne Francis with me. Roxanne's an award-winning registered social worker and psychotherapist, and runs the Busy Group Practice, is a keynote speaker, leadership coach, corporate consultant who addresses topics related to women's issues, race, equity, mental health, parenting, and wellness at work. She's also frequently in the media sharing her expertise. Roxanne, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. It's such a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here today as well. One thing that, before we started rolling, I usually ask people, what are you excited about talking about? And you said the business of private practice. And that just warms my heart, because I feel like that's an area I never get sick of. And part of it's
Yeah.
because the message I got in grad school, and I'd love to just start with like what your grad school experience was too, it was that we didn't go in it. We're not going in for the money. Most of my professors had a quote private practice, but what that meant was I see 2 or 3 people just to feel like I'm still relevant for my research. And then we have a whole semester on like running a nonprofit. I had one that was on consulting, that it was not at all like real consulting. And it just was
Yes.
like the business side is just totally ignored. And then if we ever want to start a private practice, we're starting from scratch, freshman business major, not knowing anything. What was your experience like?
Yeah, in grad school, we learned a lot of things, but none of it was about the business of practice. We weren't even taught about practice. We were taught about the needs of the community. We were taught about how to take care of each other. We even had some work on vicarious trauma. And it was all about making sure that other people were okay. but nobody taught us anything about running a practice, about how to ensure that our business is viable, or even anything about business at all. It was just go forth and be great and heal the community. Godspeed.
Yeah, it's sort of like the idea of if you're good at doing the trauma work, if you're good at doing the clinical work, then automatically you'll just fill up a practice. This
Yeah.
assumption that, it doesn't take anything other than just being a good clinician, which, obviously we want good clinicians, but like,
hmm
man, that's just terrible. So when
hmm
did you realize you needed to learn a thing or two about business?
Oh gosh. Very early on when I realized that I was, first of all, trying to figure out how to get clients, right? Someone said to me, "Oh, just put a profile on Psychology Today, you'll get lots of clients." But then trying to figure out how to get get clients to keep coming through the door, but also making money and wondering where the heck is it going? Right? And I have children to feed and a roof to keep over our heads. And so I needed really, really quickly to figure out how to make this money work, how to make it work for me, how to avoid being hounded by the tax man.
Yeah.
Also, how to ensure that clients keep coming through the door. You might be a great clinician, but as I worked with a branding coach at one point, and she said, "You are like your industry's best kept secret. You're sitting in the corner as great as you are, and nobody knows." And so, having to learn a thing or two about that was really, really important.
Mhm. Yeah, so when you take us through a little bit of your practice journey. So now you have a thriving group
hmm
practice. Did
hmm
it start as a group? Did you start as a solo? Like, what were some of your first steps? I know you're in Toronto, so maybe in
Yeah.
Canada, some of the business stuff's a little bit different. I know we have Ash, our consultant, that lives in Canada, that also works with a lot of people in the U.S. But there are some things that are just unique to Canada, so maybe note those as well. So, like, what did it look like when you first started out and started to grow?
Yeah. So, when I first started, it was just me. It was just me and my EHR, and it was fine for a while. But then I started to make mistakes in my calendar. I might double book. Um, Organizations were asking me to come in to speak to them about mental health, and I might double book with, a discovery call. And I began to realize that I needed some support to really manage my calendar. I'm really great at connecting with people. My administrative skills are just a little bit rusty. And so I reached out to someone who was a VA. I just needed her for a couple hours a week, go through my inbox, organize my calendar, respond to my voicemails. And as I started to get more clients, I began to realize that I needed more support. Outside of just the practice, I was doing consulting work as well. And so I taught her how to do my consult calls. So when clients are calling and they just need to find out, are we a good fit? I taught her how to do that. And thankfully, she has some background in some of this work. And so I passed that on to her, but then eventually I began to realize that my wait list was growing. And I really don't believe in having people wait months and months to see a therapist. People get to the end of themselves. They finally decide that they want to work with somebody, and then they find out that they have to wait 5 weeks to work with you. And I didn't think that was
Hmm.
cool. And so I sat with her and I said, okay, I think I need to bring one person on, but I don't have time to sit and, put together all these things. But she had worked in a mental health agency before. So she said, okay, let me take a crack at it. I will put together a job description and you let me know what you think. And she was amazing at it. And so she posted the job description, she shortlisted the resumes, and then she sent them to me. And then we started hiring people. And that has made a world of difference. And it has allowed me to diversify my income because now we have other people seeing the majority of the clients, and I can move on to do some of the other work. Um, and it's allowed my practice to grow. It's allowed me to uh, do other things that I love. I work with organizations, I work in the media, and it now has allowed me to connect with other therapists who are now saying to me, how in the world did you do that? I'm really stuck. I just left grad school. I have no idea. I'm seeing clients, but I can't find the money, or I'm not seeing enough clients, or I'm not charging enough, or have no idea what to charge. Again, these are things that they're not teaching us, right? So
Hmm.
I know what's different for us here is that for me, my designation is in social work. And so I'm assuming that it's probably similar in the United States where you are licensed to work in your state. For us, it's in our province. And so unless, I can get licensed to work in other provinces, but for right now, my team and I, we see clients in terms of therapy, specifically in the province of Ontario.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how did it, I want to go back to one thing you said about people waiting for, 6 weeks to see a therapist. It
Yeah.
is interesting as I do this consulting work, how if you have really basic things set up, it can help you thrive and grow so much faster. Things like
Hmm.
having schedule an intake right on your main page of your website and have it go to an actual calendar where people can schedule that intake and then do the paperwork. That
Right.
having someone answer the phone or at least call
Yes.
back within half an hour to an hour, because people just go through Psychology Today and whoever answers the phone, oftentimes they go in. Um,
Exactly.
or even just returning a call. I mean, the amount of people that I've heard that are just friends that are like, I've called 15 therapists and no one will call me back. That literally just having someone, call back and schedule that appointment could be, the make or break, or, not having a super long wait list. Those are all things that just get people in the door quicker and then have a more positive experience. They're going to tell their friends about it. I think that it's just those basic things. Sometimes people think it's this big advanced marketing plan, which it can be, but really, if we don't have those basics down, like we're never going to build this thriving practice.
I agree. People need to feel seen and heard and that they're important, right? Think about it. When you call someone like a help desk or you call an agency or whatever and you're on hold for like half an hour, you want to hang up and you never want to call them back. But if someone picks up right away and pays attention to you and solves the issue, then they've got a customer for life, right? And so it's within that same vein to your point. If someone reaches out and they are responded to right away, or they get scheduled in right away, or they got a call back within, half an hour to an hour, then you will likely get that client. And then to your point, they will tell their friends and it becomes this people don't pay attention enough to customer service. It is huge.
Mhm.
It's huge.
Yeah. Well, so take me through then. You make your first hire. You have a one extra person. How does it start to scale after that?
Actually, my story in that era is a little bit unique. So, and I will say it was probably one of those, I'm doing it for the first time. It could have been a huge blunder, but in my case, it turned out well. So we created the job description. We shortlisted a few people. I did some interviews, and there were four people who stood out. Just absolutely amazing. And they each had expertise in different areas. One had expertise in eating disorders, another had an expertise in couples, and so on and so forth. And I'm sitting at the kitchen table one night, my kids are in bed, and my husband walks in and he's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "I'm looking at these four resumes and they're so amazing. I did the interviews, they're fantastic. And I can't choose. I wish I could hire all four of them." And he said, "Well, just hire. Do you have enough clients to support them?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, just hire all four." I'm like, "You out your mind. Like, there ain't no way. There is no way I can hire four people. I don't know how to manage people. I don't know how to, navigate a team. I just can't do it." And as he's walking out the kitchen, he throws over his shoulder and he says to me, "The only reason you can't do it is because you say you can't do it." And I was like,
Hmm.
man. And so I really looked at it and I thought to myself, how can I best navigate these people? How can I bring on four people at one time? And so I sat with my VA, she's just a whiz. And she said to me, "Okay, how about we do this? How about we send them all offer letters and we stagger their onboarding?" And so that's what we did. We reached out, and within 2 months, I went from a team of one and a VA to a team of five and a VA. And I will not say that this is the best way because it really could have backfired. But these
Hmm.
were four amazing individuals, and they were not beginners. They had agency experience, they had private practice experience. They just did not want the burden of the administrative duties. They just didn't want to lead anything. And so they came on board, and they're still here, and they're absolutely amazing.
Whatever stage your practice is at, we know using great resources with patients is crucial to helping them get better faster. As a practice owner, I never compromised on this, but finding the right materials was a constant challenge. It's so time consuming, especially with everything else to juggle. That's why I recommend Psychology Tools, an online library of over 500 evidence-based resources for whatever problems your clients are facing. Choose practical exercises, handouts, and worksheets, audio therapy, treatment manuals, and loads more. They're even available in multiple languages and formats. Developed by highly qualified psychologists, resources can be downloaded with therapist guidance to enhance skills or client guidance helping patients make the most of each tool. It's a game changer for saving time when delivering more effective therapy. As well as a great resource library, Psychology Tools is also a smart business tool, boosting productivity and efficiency. Focus on growing your practice while your team feels better prepared for every session. It's a win-win for you and for me and for the client. Visit psychologytools.com/Joe to find out more. Use code JOE24 for 20% off new subscriptions. Again, that's psychologytools.com/Joe to find out more. I think there's something to be said for that. When I upgraded from my single office that I was subleasing, it was me and I had two other contractors that were working with me. And then I added a third, and it was clear that it was just like this one office that we were sharing was not going to work out. We needed to upgrade. And I thought,
Hmm.
instead of upgrading to just like a 2-office suite, I upgraded to a 4-office suite with a view of the water. It was this gorgeous, just like, I loved this office. And it was one of those things where, okay, I have 4 offices and I have 3 relatively part-time people that, we're seeing 10 sessions a week. And so that drive of, okay, if I'm going to pay more for this office than I'm paying for my mortgage, I need to fill this thing up. And we went from the 4 of us to 13 people in, I want to say, like 14 months. But it really got that process automated. It helped me figure out like what is onboarding, kept track of that to really systematize it, to have the assistant do most of it, to look at, well, what needs to be done to promote this person. So we had, connections with local radio. We were on there every week. So I would always bring the new person with me, and this is our new specialist around this topic. And I wrote for the local paper and, had an article once a month in the mental health section. And so would spotlight them there. And so it was like, I got in this rhythm of just the automation of onboarding people and launching them that I don't think I could have done if I had just done, like, say, hire a new person every 6 months. Do you feel like by jumping into 4 clinicians that there's automations that you learned, and maybe even things that you dropped the ball, that it was a bigger explosion because it was 4 people, but it overall helped you just move forward faster?
Yes, I think, it's one of those things where you jump into the deep end and you figure out how to tread water really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Of course, we had to expand our EHR. We had to create a system around how clients get referred to each clinician. We figured out that I couldn't just meet with them in an ad hoc fashion in the same way that I would sort of send messages to my VA. So we had to create a, system around having meetings, a system around supervision. I'm as well as just doing this work, and I'm a supervisor as well. So providing them support, having peer meetings, figuring out compensation. Like, these are things that I had to figure out really, really quickly, and I think it caused me to level up really fast. So it might not have been with the same speed if it was just one person every 6 months or every year. And the other thing as well is that it allowed me to present myself to the marketplace as a group practice who can offer these different uh, areas of expertise, as opposed to a practice that can only offer these couple of things. Here we can now offer these 10 things. And so it broadened my reach really, really quickly.
Yeah, I think that just that scalability side of it. What were some things, and how many clinicians do you now have?
There are 10 of us now.
Okay. So that's awesome because I feel like going from, like 1 to 4 to 10, like it feels like that's a big jump for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What did it take to get to 10 people? What are maybe automations to pull yourself out of it? Operational things? Like what's the business of having a 10-person practice?
Uh, a very good EHR, a system around, bringing in clients, the intake process, figuring out who's a good fit for who, um, when do people work, connecting with the therapist because they need support as well. One of the things that we did as well was one of the individuals on our team who was very, very strong clinically. Uh, I asked if she'd be interested in moving up to become the clinical manager so she could handle supporting the team. Um, as you mentioned earlier about being on the local radio and writing for the paper, I get in the media from time to time, actually fairly regularly. And so I get to talk about my team. I get to talk about the things that we do, and it brings more clients in. Um, you know, we most of us work virtually, but we meet in person fairly regularly as well. I think the team dynamics is huge, making sure that we click as a team, right? Who are we when in terms of people that we're looking for? Will these people gel with the people that we currently have, right? Because you want that camaraderie. Staying in touch with each other on a regular basis is really, really key. And paying attention to the clients who are coming in. Who are they asking for? Who are they looking to see that we don't have on our team? Are we constantly having to refer to other people because we don't have what they need on our team? And so that gives us direction into what our next hire needs to be, who our next hire needs to be. So paying attention to the questions that clients are asking as well. Um, and doing what we can to support that. When I go and from time to time I might give a keynote, and people talk about selling from the stage. Oftentimes, when I'm introduced as a therapist, when I get off the stage, people are saying, "I need a therapist in this area, in that area. Do you have someone in your team?" And so, really paying attention to that and being strategic around who we're going to bring on the team so we can serve the needs of the clients out there.
Hmm. Yeah, one of the things that we often talk about is that, if we can just simplify private practice into how do people find you and then what happens
Mhm.
next, that kind of breaks things down a little bit more. On the side of how people find you, I think a big worry of a lot of group practice owners or growing group practice owners is how am I going to fill these people up? Do I have enough people coming in? What's my new marketing going to be? How do you address all of that for your group practice?
So, you know, our practice did develop a lot of word of mouth or word on the street through some social media stuff. But after that, as a practice began to grow, I had to step outside of that and I really had to tap into literal community, right? What is happening at the local library, right? What is happening down the street? There's a midwifery clinic in my neighborhood. So going to them and speaking to them about postpartum care and mental health, going to the urgent care center saying, who do you refer your clients to when your patients come in and talk about depression? Who do you refer to? Actual printing of flyers and business cards. People are telling me that business cards are obsolete, but I don't find that to be the case, right? Um, I'm very intentional about networking and going to events. And I mean, I measure that because I have a family as well that I have to pay attention to. But, I'll go to business events, local business activities that happen in my neighborhood or on a more macro scale, something that's happening maybe in our capital city. I might go and I will bring someone from my team and I'll have business cards and we talk about what we do. Uh, and word of mouth, when you go out or you connect at a friend's barbecue and it's it's a toss up when people ask you what you do because people might start talking to you about all their stuff. But on the other hand, they might say, oh, my cousin's daughter is looking for someone. Do you have a card? And so it's really, really important that we are preparing ourselves to always present, always share about what we do. I never leave home without a stack of business cards. They're in every wallet, every purse, my glove box, everywhere, right? Because people will ask. I also have one of those QR code things in my phone so people can scan it, their preference. But,
Hmm.
people make marketing seem like this big, scary thing. And really, it's about just telling people about what you do and always being prepared to tell people about what you do and share. And a friend of mine says always don't be scared of being the local hero as opposed to being nationally known, which is what everyone seems to be moving towards, and that's great. But if your local community knows about you, if you have your ear to the ground in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state or province, then it can make a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, and I feel like it can also just be easier. I mean, when you think
Yeah.
about competing on a national level, there are so many people doing really good work, really professionally, and that have the time and the resources to put into just, I mean, some of the social media accounts, I'm like, how do you have the time to do all this? And part of it is maybe that's all they're doing. But when you think about counseling, people know what counseling is. Like, it's not a hard sell. If someone needs counseling, it's really just, is that person a fit? And so when you start to look at the scalability of having a group practice, the numbers work out in your favor pretty quickly for the amount of time you have to put into it. So I think sometimes it can just be easier as well. When you think about how you, I'd like to talk about how you think about growth. So when you think about, okay, you got to 10, like how do you decide, if you want to get to 15 or 20, or is it more, do we have the intakes? Let's just hire people, or is there a strategic plan around kind of what that growth looks like for you?
I hmm, I should have a concrete strategy, and I probably did to get to 10, but in terms of growing beyond that, I am very mindful about my connection with people. I'm a people person. It's probably why I ended up in the field to begin with. And it's very important for me to be able to connect with a therapist on the team. I feel like if we are connected together, then it makes a stronger team and it makes us better able to serve the community. People see us as a team, they see us as um, uh, compassionate and understanding and someone that they'd be willing to come to talk to about, what's going on for them. And so it's really important for me to create a space that therapists want to work at. And I think that if where we are now, if we expanded to maybe 20, 25 people in a very short period of time, then I might lose that connection, right? Because you just can't connect with everybody if you're a 30-person team very well. At least that's true for me at this moment. And so I am being mindful of my connection with the team, but I'm also mindful of what that looks like financially. If we start to expand, what does that mean in terms of income? What does that mean in terms of, ensuring that each person has uh, enough clients? It's great to say, we have a 50-person team, but are people actually getting clients? Are people actually coming in the door? And so I want to be careful not to grow too far beyond, you know, the clients that we can bring in. I want to make sure that when people come on our team that we have something to offer to them, right? Yes, they're also supporting with marketing, but I don't want people to come just to say I'm part of your team and then they're twiddling their thumbs and their calendar is completely empty. So that's something that we have to keep in mind as well.
Yeah. Well, the last question I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know that they don't have to do this alone. I would want them to know that the growing pains that they're experiencing is normal, that they are not alone, that they don't have to hide, they don't have to feel shame. They need to recognize and, really pay attention to the fact that this was not taught to them. This is brand new to many people. And the hiccups that you're facing, the questions that you have, the mistakes that you're making, these things are normal for entrepreneurship, and that it's okay to ask for guidance. It doesn't mean that you're failing. You're still brilliant. You're still a great therapist. You're still a great counselor. Um, these mistakes are normal. These questions are normal. These hiccups are normal. This is just the journey, the up and down journey of entrepreneurship. And, if you need support, go out and get it.
So awesome. If people want to connect with you, where should we send them?
Yeah, they can reach out to me. I'm all over the internet streets. Our website is www.francispsychotherapy.com. You can find us on social media at Francis Psychotherapy. And you can also get into our email. Our email is info@francispsychotherapy.com.
So awesome. Thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. It was a really great discussion.
You know what Roxanne talked about there is that loneliness that can come with being a group practice owner. And I totally get that. I would meet with local people when I had my group practice before I sold that in 2019. And we would share a lot of ideas, a lot of kind of what's working. But there was always sort of a little, like, I'm not sure I want to tell you everything because you're local, you're my competition. I personally didn't feel that because I just don't believe in competition. I think that the people that want to work with mental wellness counseling, my practice, they'd work with me. If they wanted to work with someone else's, they'd work with someone else's. But a lot of people feel that in their communities. And that's why we started Group Practice Boss. So if you have a growing group practice and you're looking for ongoing business support, we've got a membership community for you. Our next cohort actually opens in September 2024. And every single month we jump into essential topics. We have weekly meetings that are led by our consultants. We have small groups that you get to be with other group practice owners to talk about positive work culture, enhancing client retention, money management, hiring, marketing, branding, all those sorts of things that we really don't dig into oftentimes enough to get to that next level. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/group practice boss, and you can join the wait list today so that when that opens in September, you'll be one of the first ones to jump in. We could not do this show without our sponsors, and today's sponsor is Psychology Tools. It is what I wish I had when I was in practice. There were times when I just wanted to have resources, checklists, things that could be helpful for my clients to do between sessions. And I would look around the internet and just find different things. But Psychology Tools has a resource library that's going to help you with whatever problems your clients are facing. Highly qualified psychologists put together these resources just for you to enhance skills and guide your clients better. Visit psychologytools.com/Joe to find out more. Use code JOE24 for 20% off new subscriptions. Again, that's psychologytools.com/Joe to find out more. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.